Well, now we have the pleasure of adding and subtracting rational expressions with polynomial denominators. All right, so here we go. We got x minus 1 over x squared minus x minus 6, and subtracting from that 4 over 5x plus 10. Now, again, I've got to get to the least common denominator the best way I can. And when I'm looking at these two denominators, x squared minus x minus 6 and 5x plus 10, well, I'm going to have to factor those to try to get to this least common denominator. So let's start over here. I'm going to start here. Let's go with x squared minus x minus 6. Okay, well, I got an x, I got an x. And let's see, I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to negative 6 and add to negative 1. And so I think x minus 3, x plus 2 should do the trick there. Negative 3x, 2x, that gives me negative x. Negative 3 times 2, positive 2 gives me negative 6. All right. Now, what about this other one? I got 5x plus 10. Well, both 5 and 10 are multiples of 5. So let's take 5x plus 10, and let's factor out a 5. And the key thing that does for me here, this gives me a common factor of x plus 2. Now, I'm still missing over here on the left. I need to take into account the 5. And over here on the right, I've got to take into account the x minus 3. All right, so let's work on the left side first. So what I'm missing from the left side is the 5. So I got 5 over 5 times x minus 1 over, and I'm going to use my factored version here of this x squared minus x minus 6, x minus 3 times x plus 2. Okay. And let's go over here on the right-hand side. Well, I'm missing the x minus 3. So I got 4 over, and again, I'm going to use my factored version, 5x plus 2. And we're going to multiply that by 1, or stated another way, x minus 3 over x minus 3. All right, let's do the left side and then the right side. Numerator times numerator is going to give me 5x plus 5, and now that's going to be over 5x minus 3, x plus 2, denominator times denominator, minus, let's distribute this numerator and numerator, so we got 4x minus 12, 4 times x is 4x, 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and that's going to be over, and I'm going to write them in the same order, commutative property, 5 times x minus 3 times x plus 2. So we got everything to a common denominator, and now all we really got to do is perform this operation. Now this negative right here is going to make this a negative 4x and make that a positive 12. All right. Oh, I knew I had something wrong. This is x minus 1. About to make a critical mistake. I could see something wasn't right. Yes, even the teachers make mistakes. All right, now let's combine the like terms. So I got 5x minus 4x. Well, that's just going to leave me with x. And I've got negative 5 plus 12. That's going to be plus 7 over 5x minus 3, x plus 2. All right? Okay, that wasn't too bad. Factor it first. Look for your missing factors. Take those missing factors from each expression and multiply it by those missing factors to where that equals 1. Do your distribution, combine your like terms, and you can handle it. We're going to look at one other. All right, let's see what we got this time. We got x minus 8 over 4x squared plus 21x plus 5, and that's plus 6 over 2x 12x plus 3. Okay, well, let's get to work on this thing. Well, let's factor this 4x squared plus 21x plus 5. Okay, we'll set up my two parentheses. I know I'm going to have an x and an x. I know it's got to be plus plus because my third term's plus is my middle term is plus. So I'm looking at how I can structure this. I got this coefficient other than 1 in my lead term. So I'm going to just try 4 and 1. I could try 2 and 2. But I think 4 and 1, since that's 21, I think I'm going to go with the 4 and 1. And let's see, 4x plus 1, x plus 5, I think gets me there. 4x times 5 is 20x, 1 times x is 1x, that's 21x, and 1 times 5 is 5. All right, now what about this 12x plus 3? Well, both 3 and 12 are divisible by 3, so I could factor out of 3, and I got 4x plus 1, and that gives me a common factor. And here's a tip. If you don't immediately see a common factor, make sure to check to see if you can factor something out that'll give you a common factor. All right, now what's missing? Well, over here on the left-hand side, the only thing I'm really missing is that 3. And on the right-hand side, I'm missing the x plus 5. So let's go. Let's hit this then. We're going to take 3 over 3 times x minus 8 over, and again, I'm going to leave it in the factored form, 4x plus 1 times x plus 5. And then we're going to add to that, we got the 6 over factored form, 3 times 4x plus 1. And my missing factor here is x plus 5. So we're going to multiply it by x plus 5 over x plus 5. All right, numerator times numerator. So I've got 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. And then 3 times the 4x plus 1, x plus 5, I'm just going to say that's 3 times 4x plus 1 times x plus 5 plus, well, we're going to numerator times numerator, so I got 6x plus 30 over 3 times 4x plus 1 times x plus 5. All right, let's combine like terms. Let's see, 6x, 3x and 6x is 9x. And negative 24 and plus 30 is plus 6. And that's over 3 times 4x plus 1 times x plus 5. So here's the question, am I done? Pretty close. But this 3 hanging out here, I can divide that into the 9x and the 6 both. and that would make that 3x, and 3 into 6 is 2, and so my final answer then becomes 3x plus 2, because I could further simplify this, over 4x plus 1 times x plus 5. You know what will make you good at this? Practice, being patient. Don't get hung up if you don't get the right answer to begin with. Persevere, and all of a sudden your eyes will be opened and you will become an extraordinary mathematician.